Wargamers. We are in the middle of tournament season, and whether it's your first Rogue Trader tournament or your 50th National GT, there are a suite of things that every tournament participant should keep in mind when getting ready to go to a tournament. And that's what I want to talk about today. So before we do that, I want to say thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss any of my upcoming 8th edition content. All right, so I know when I first started going to tournaments, I had this big question in my mind of what should I do? Do I just like show up and expect everything's going to be taken care of for me, or are there things that I should do to prepare myself to be a better player and have a better time at that tournament? And of course the answer is yes, there are things that everyone should do in order to get ready for a tournament. And there are a bunch of things that you should do beforehand, and also a bunch of things you should do the day of that I want to talk about. So the first things that you want to do to kind of start getting ready for a tournament is familiarize yourself with your army. So you have to develop a list and familiarize yourself with the mechanics of that list, its stat lines, everything like that, because in the middle of a timed event, having to look things up in a book really contributes to slow play and makes the event less enjoyable for both of you. Now, of course, there's going to be cases when you do have to look something up, and that's okay, but if you have to look up every single stat for every single model and weapon and everything like that, that is not going to be a good tournament game. That's going to be a slow game, and you're not going to get very far, and your opponent's probably going to get a little irritated with you. So instead, prepare yourself by knowing your army. Know it forward and backward, and know how to use it. The best way to do both of these things is to get in practice games. And if you're like me, you don't get a practice 5 times a week or anything like that. You're getting in relatively few games. But when you do that, make sure that you're making an effort to try to memorize things a little bit at a time. Whether it's just going and looking at your codex or your index in this case, for 5 minutes a day for the week preceding the tournament, something like that, just helps you get a better grip on what the numbers are and prevents you from having to look stuff up. So the first thing you should do is know your army. The other thing that you should do, another huge thing you should do, is know the tournament. So know what time it starts, know where it is, everything like that. Know if there's an entry fee, if you have to pay an entry fee, know that and be prepared to do so at the door. Bring cash, don't rely on having a credit machine or a credit card processor, because not every friendly local game store is super jazzed about using credit cards still. So show up with cash in hand to pay the entry fee if you need to. Also, if the tournament has put out a tournament packet, meaning what the different missions are, everything like that, know that packet. Know what missions are going to be played, how they function, what the objectives are, because one of the biggest components of winning a tournament game is just understanding the mission. If you don't understand the mission, it's a crapshoot whether or not you actually end up where you want to be at the end of the game. So make sure that you understand, is it a progressive mission where you have to score points every turn? Is it a maelstrom mission where they're randomly generated at each turn? Or is it an end of game kind of eternal war mission where it doesn't matter what you do during the game, but at the end of the game, if you're on an objective, that's all that matters. So know what type of format it is and familiarize yourself with the specifics of each mission. Also make sure that you keep a close eye on army construction rules. Whether or not you can bring Forge World, how many Forge World units you can bring, how many Lords of War you can bring, what the maximum point limit is on those Lords of War, is there a painting requirement? Make sure that you understand all those things intimately, and if they're not explicitly stated on the tournament packet or on the Facebook group for the event or any type of posting for it, make sure you ask, because these are details that matter. And if the TO hasn't put those forward to you, hasn't made those obvious, that's on them. They need to actually step up to the plate and make sure that everyone is clear on those things, because those are facts that are integral to everyone having a good time and everyone coming prepared to their event. So it's for everyone's benefit if you ask that question if you have it. Other people probably have that same question too. So go ahead, ask questions. So those are like the two big things that you should do ahead of time. Of course, get your army painted and assembled, everything like that. Don't show up to a tournament with proxies or alternative sculpts unless you've cleared it with the tournament organizer ahead of time. Make sure they have that all squared away. When it comes to actually going to the event, there are a series of things that you need. Obviously, you need your army, so figure out a way to transport your army. A lot of the time, when I am going to a tournament that's less than an hour away, I just throw everything in a paper box and and bring it that way. It's not very safe. It's not very secure. It's a good way to have models get broken, but for the most part, it works out okay, and I don't have to worry about it. This is different from what I do for actually storing my models. For storing my models, I have high quality foam, like battle foam or KR foam, anything like that. That's what I actually store all my models in and keep them safe in the long term. But when I'm just running to place, cardboard box works just fine. Now, of course, if you're traveling, on an airplane, you have to take other considerations. But yeah, in this scenario, we're just using a box. This box, though, is actually a critical component of your success on game day because you need a tray to move your army from table to table. If you've never been to a tournament before, basically it works out where you play a game at a table and then you have just a few minutes to move to the next table while everyone else is preparing. And so having something that you can easily put your models into and not have to take trays out and put them back in and everything like that, something that's just put the model in, easy as that. That's a huge help, and it will save you a lot of time and headache if you bring that. And so that's what I do. So you'll need a box and a tray or something to move them around. And if your tournament is doing hobby scores, you'll probably want to have a display board, and that can be your movement tray as well. Obviously, my display board is not a cardboard box, so I bring the cardboard box and my display board. But yeah, that can be a good way to move your army around as well, is with your display board. Books. Yeah, you need your books. So you need your index, you need your Forge World index if you're using Forge World, and you need your core rulebook. You need all three of those things to participate in a tournament. A lot of times tournaments will specify that you need to bring a hard copy of the books or an electronic version. To me, that means that you need either the EPUB or the physical copybook, not BattleScribe. BattleScribe, to some people, is sufficient, but to me, it's just not the primary source for the material, and that primary source is the definitive answer. So have that on hand. Have the actual book on hand, even if it's just in a backpack that you lug around with you. Have it on hand so that you can look up rules or answer questions if you have them, because you will have them. Questions will come up, and having the primary source there really makes that a lot easier. And it makes it a lot easier for your opponent to look at what you're showing them to. They know what you're showing them is authentic, and they know that you can look at it really easily instead of having to fill through an iPad or something. So there's that. Similarly, print off the FAQs for those publications. If you're bringing Index Xenos 2 to a tournament, print out the FAQ from GW for that book. Similarly, if you're participating in a tournament that issues their own FAQs, have those FAQs on hand too, because those are going to be important for how your army plays and how your opponent armies plays, and you'll need that in order to understand if they're doing things right or not. Dice. Guys, I have a bunch of props here. I'm not going to hold up a bunch of books for you to look, but I will hold up a sack of dice because no one knows what that looks like. Right? So here's a sack of dice. Have your dice with you in easily transportable way. Right? So you need dice. You need a tape measure, something that's actually relatively easy to see and move around is good. I've used like a really tiny flimsy tape measure in the past, and that just slows down measuring, it's kind of weird and wonky to use. So just having a nice, good tape measure is useful in a tournament scene. Objective markers. A lot of tournaments will require that you bring objective markers, whether that's something decorative or something really mundane. It's up to you, but having some sort of objective marker to indicate where objectives are placed on the board is important. And don't assume that the tournament is going to provide those for you. Bring your own. And so every time I bring my objective markers, they look like this. They're just like a Farsight shield with some green stuff. These are my objective markers. They look nice on my display board that earn me, maybe hobby points. I don't know. People seem to like them, so I bring them. Otherwise, just a poker chip works just fine too. You can write on it or not, or just put a die next to it. Any of those things works for an objective marker. So make sure you bring those. Your army list, bring your army list. Whether that is something that you print out in like Microsoft Word or output from BattleScribe, have a printed out list. Don't bring a hand scribbled list or anything like that. Huge pet peeve of mine is when I show up to a tournament and I see a guy in the corner with a notebook writing down his list. It's like, no, there is definitely going to be something wrong with that list. Do it ahead of time, do it right, print it out, and bring at least enough copies for all of your opponents plus one. That way, if the TO needs a copy, you can give it to them. If you lose one, you still have extras. It just makes sense. Bring more than enough copies of your army list for everyone. So yeah, do that. Other things that you should bring, I think that pretty much covers all the basic gaming things that you should bring. You just bring everything that you need to play the game. Don't rely on the tournament organizer to provide those things for you, because a lot of times they won't. But in addition to that, there are some creature comforts that you might want to bring with. Primarily water. Bring a nice big old bottle of water. I see people like show up to tournaments with like a couple gallons of water from the grocery store or something like that. If you're a thirsty guy or a thirsty gal, go for it. But a lot of times, just a couple water bottles works just fine for me. Snacks, you're probably going to get hungry, and you might not have access to a good lunch option nearby. So bring snacks, a couple granola bars or a candy bar or some pretzels, just something small, something easy to bring with you. Do it. You'll thank me later. Advil. Advil or Tylenol. I don't know how many times I've been at like game 3 of a tournament and just wanted to not be there anymore because I had a huge headache, I was dehydrated, I was stressed out, and so I started bringing Advil, and that went away real quick. So if you bring something just to alleviate minor aches and pains, it actually will make you more comfortable. And I know I might be a wimp for saying that, but still, I'd rather be safe than sorry. So comfortable shoes too. I have really flat feet, so having comfortable shoes is really important for me, and I think it is good for other people too. You're not always going to be able to have a place to sit down, especially in smaller stores where space is at a premium. So bring shoes that are going to be comfortable for you to stand in for a long time. You're going to be playing a game for like at least 6 hours, so you might as well wear comfortable shoes. And finally, I think this is actually really important and something that gets a moderate amount of attention, but probably not enough, is bring a good attitude. I know that that's really cheesy, but it's true. If you show up to a tournament saying, all right, I'm going to plow all these suckers down, I'm going to win, and no one's going to tell me otherwise, you're going to have a bad time. Because even if that does happen, you're going to piss off your opponents, and they're not going to have a good time, and that means you're not going to have a good time. So it's just not going to be fun for anybody if you go there with this attitude that you're the best, everyone else sucks, you're going to mow them down, and you're there to win, and that's it. Don't go to a tournament with that attitude, because it's just not going to work out for anybody. Go there with the attitude that you're there to play a game, and you're there to meet new people and experience new armies and new challenges, and have a good time while you're doing it. So even if you end up losing every single game, you still, make all those objectives. You still complete all those objectives. You're still going to have a good time if you're there just to play a game. And I really think that's important. So when I go to a tournament, that's the mindset that I have, is that, it'd be nice if I win some games, but, I'm probably not going to win all of them, and that's okay. I'm there to just have a good time and enjoy the hobby and the strategy of the game. So, yeah, there's that. And we can talk, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If this is a challenging thing for you, I'd love to hear about it. I want to know really what your approach to going to tournaments is, and how you, the things that you value in the experience aside from winning the game, what's important to you, because I think those are valuable insights to share. Cool. So that's everything that you should bring to the tournament. Yeah, so the day of, what should you do? Well, I guess the night before, get a good night's rest, right? Nobody is going to do super well if they only get an hour of sleep ahead of time. So get a good night's rest. Have everything set out for yourself the night before. So, if tournament's on a Saturday, Friday night, get your water ready, get your snacks ready, get your army packed and ready to go. Get all your books out, everything in a bag, ready to go. So that way when you wake up, you can grab it and go, and you don't have to worry about it. Know where you're going, figure out where parking is, everything like that, how long it's going to take you to get there. Do that the night before, basic travel stuff, get that figured out. So when you wake up in the morning, have a nice breakfast, whether that's a bowl of cereal or like, English muffin or something. Just have something to eat, because you don't know when you're going to get a chance to eat next, and it's better to go into a tournament with a full stomach, or at least something to fuel your strategic genius. So do that. Yeah, and I really think that's it. Get there nice and early. Don't plan on being at the game store at the exact moment that the tournament is supposed to start. If it's supposed to start at 10:30, get there at 10. And when you get there, set your stuff down, maybe set your display board up, get your army ready to move around and start the tournament. Don't just sit in the corner and twiddle your thumbs. Get it all ready to go. And a lot of times there's going to be plenty of other people that are doing that exact same thing. Go and meet them, shake their hand, ask them about their army. It's going to make the tournament a lot more comfortable for everybody, because you're making friends, right? And that's a nice thing to do. So go to the tournament, meet people, ask them about their army, and you'll be surprised at the diversity of people that you meet and the number of friends that you make that way. And it just makes the whole tournament experience a lot better. So once you do that, dice are going to get ready to roll, and you'll be on your way. So the next step is just play the tournament and do your best, and keep in mind that you're there to play a game and have fun. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any tips or stories about your first tournament experience, love to hear it. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are going to watch this video that have that exact same question of what should I do and what should I bring with me. And so having that insight from a whole bunch of people that have gone to tournaments, not just me, would be great. So thanks for watching, and of course, happy wargaming.